Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A new push to prevent China from buying U.S. farmland. Representative Beth Van Duyne from Texas introduced a new bill last Friday. If passed, Texas would slap a 60% tax on undisclosed farmland purchases by buyers from China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. The ban doesn't apply to U.S. citizens or green card holders originally from China. Chinese buyers poured over $6 billion into U.S.-based home purchases last year, outpacing all other international buyers. Looking at farmland, China controls over 380,000 acres in the U.S. That's an area around half the size of Rhode Island, though that's less than 1% of the nation's total farmland. The locations of these land buy-ups are setting off alarm bells. Last year, a Chinese corn milling company bought land 20 minutes away from the Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota. But the local city council pulled the plug on the construction plan this February. A former Chinese general also bought land near Texas's Laughlin Air Base, the largest pilot training center for the U.S. Air Force. Following these news reports, a number of states are mulling over plans or taking action. In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill banning people from China from buying property within 10 miles of a military installation or critical infrastructure, though it doesn't apply to Chinese people that have become U.S. citizens or permanent residents. The law is set to take effect July 1st. Montana's governor also signed a bill into law. Under it, people from countries, including China, are banned from buying certain real estate, such as leasing or buying land and homes near military assets. Texas, Alabama, and Louisiana are weighing similar actions. In the meantime, these bills are also facing pushback from some Chinese Americans. They argue the rules could lead to discrimination and hate crimes. Despite that, experts predict the trend of restricting land purchases by Chinese buyers is likely to continue. Beijing appears to be keeping an eye on a certain naval exercise involving the U.S., Japan, France, and Canada. The U.S. began the drill in the Philippine Sea Friday, with two carrier strike groups jointly operating for the first time since June 2020. Meanwhile, Chinese media reported that an intel-gathering aircraft flew over Pacific waters east of Taiwan. State-backed newspaper The Global Times published Sunday that the Y-9 cargo plane had been fitted with reconnaissance equipment and likely monitored the drill. Japan's defense ministry also chimed in, saying its troops spotted a Y-9 aircraft in the Pacific on Thursday. A spokesperson said on Monday the ministry was analyzing a piece of equipment attached to the plane that had not been seen before. Chinese media reports that two U.S. aircraft carriers, the USS Nimitz and USS Ronald Reagan, had been operating in the region since Thursday. Beijing claims the waters surrounding the Ryukyu Islands in the Philippine Sea as its own territory. U.S. military encounters in the Indo-Pacific have risen in recent years, with Beijing growing more assertive in the area. With Beijing making more moves in the Indo-Pacific, U.S. lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are working together to counter it. They're creating a new task force to fight the influence of the Chinese Communist Party. NTD's Arian Pazdar has the details.
Together we're launching the bipartisan Indo-Pacific Task Force, ensuring the Chinese Communist Party and the world that we will not play their games or give them so much as an inch in this region.
On Wednesday, House representatives created the Indo-Pacific Task Force, designed to counter Chinese aggression in the area. The task force consists of 14 representatives, 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans. The task force will hold meetings to conduct oversight over U.S. territories in the Indo-Pacific. It will also provide policy recommendations to advance U.S. interest in the region. NTD's Melina Weisskopf attended Wednesday's announcement, speaking with task force member James Moylan of Guam.
China's goal is to control the Pacific area from the first island chain and Guam being the second island chain.
China has been provoking U.S. military aircraft and vessels in the region.
Earlier this month, a Chinese Navy ship in the Taiwan Strait cut sharply across the path of an American destroyer, forcing the U.S. vessel to slow to avoid a collision. White House National Security Council spokesperson commented on the near crash.
We are a Pacific power. We're not going anywhere.
5 of America's 7 treaty alliances are based in the Indo-Pacific. Taiwanese Air Force jets scrambled into action on Sunday, responding to Chinese combat patrols. According to the island's defense ministry, troops spotted 10 Chinese warplanes crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait. It's the second air incursion in just a week, after a whopping 37 Chinese planes flew into Taiwan's air defense zone Thursday. Among them, fighters like the J-10, J-11, J-16, and Su-30 jets, as well as H-6 bombers. 4 Chinese naval ships also engaged in joint combat readiness patrols. Taiwan said it sent up its own fighters and deployed ships and land-based missile systems to keep watch. In the face of a possible attack from China, students in Taiwan are learning more about how to defend the island. A Taiwanese high school has installed an indoor shooting range on its campus to train the 18-year-olds in how to use rifles and other weapons. Let's take a closer look.
Inside a high school campus in southern Taiwan, 18-year-olds are practicing their aim with airsoft guns under the supervision of the school's chief military instructor. Sanmin Senior High recently installed this airsoft gun shooting range. The facility helps students to learn about all-out defense, a concept designed to help the country prepare for conflict.
Before I learned about all-out defense, I thought that it's a soldier's duty is to protect our lives and assets. But after I became aware of it, I realized that protecting ourselves is everyone's job, not just soldiers or firemen and policemen's jobs. We have to do it ourselves.
All-out defense is about combining civilian and military resources to preserve national security. Under it, civilians learn first aid techniques, study military equipment and jobs, take part in drills, train to use different firearms, and more. Military instructors are present to help students practice with airsoft guns.
I realized that to train a good shooter so that he or she can aim properly and shoot an enemy or a target is very hard. I think it's not so easy to be a soldier.
Aside from shooting airsoft guns, students can also experience flying a military aircraft using a simulator. The machine was built with the dashboard of a retired Taiwanese Army helicopter.
I will do my 1-year service. Since I already have an idea about flying an aircraft, I can learn fast and don't need extra training.
Referring to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a lieutenant colonel and chief military instructor at the school says it's better to be prepared in case China follows suit.
You've probably seen on the news that there's a war in another country, but we must be aware of the potential danger. If such a situation happens in Taiwan, what are you going to do? How are you going to react?
Chinese air and sea drills recently simulated an encirclement and blockade around Taiwan. Beijing said it was intended as a serious warning to pro-independence politicians on the self-governing island and their foreign supporters. Taiwan has never been part of Communist China, but the mainland's ruling Communist Party says the island is obliged to unite with China by force if necessary. Beijing has threatened to attack if Taiwan declares formal independence or delays talks on unification.
In the future, no matter what happens, the students will have a clear concept of what to do, be it protecting the country or self-defense. We will be aware. I think this is the most important thing.
But military analyst Jerry Song doubts the practical effects of the shooting range.
This will only help the students have a concept of firearms. They will know what shooting is and the basic on how to shoot. But they will have to learn further about real shooting with real firearms.
The shooting range is open to Sanmin Senior High students as well as to students of other schools upon request.
A nation in America's backyard inching closer to Beijing after shying away from its ties to Taiwan. The president of Honduras met with Xi Jinping during her first visit to China. That alongside the opening of the first Honduran embassy in China. Here's the latest.
Honduran President Xiomara Castro attended a welcome ceremony with her Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. It was after the country's foreign ministers unveiled the Honduran embassy in Beijing. Just a few months ago, Honduras cut off its decades-long ties with Taiwan before setting up diplomatic relations with Beijing. The country is seeking China's support to ease its debt burden. Washington is watching with concern as China takes away Taiwan's Central American allies. The White House has warned countries not to trust the Chinese regime's promises of aid.
Hailstones the size of golf balls battering China's Jiangsu province. Hailstorms swept through multiple districts in the city Saturday. The news was reported on Chinese state TV. Take a look.
Much of the province also experienced torrential rain. A power line in one town was struck by lightning, causing power outages to 150 households. The Jiangsu Meteorological Department says strong rain is forecast to continue until Wednesday. Chinese authorities on Sunday renewed their lowest level alert for rainstorms. The affected area includes regions in 5 provinces. Up to 5 inches of rain is expected in the northern part of Hainan province.
A legal international agreement could be used by the Chinese Communist Party to go after dissidents. UK tax authorities are providing the Chinese regime with data about Chinese and Hong Kong dissidents. It's part of an international anti-tax fraud agreement, but it's raised concerns the Chinese regime could use the sensitive information to put pressure on pro-democracy activists. NTD's Malcolm Hudson has more.
The UK government is giving the personal information of Chinese and Hong Kong nationals living here in Britain to the Chinese regime. The data sharing is part of an international agreement to prevent tax fraud. But this revelation raises fears the Chinese regime will use the details to target activists escaping the Chinese Communist Party.
Whether knowingly or unknowingly, the British government is able to share the sensitive tax information. This is addresses, bank account information, how much money they have, automatically with the Chinese regime.
The tax agreement was launched in 2014, with China and Hong Kong joining the pact 4 years later. Over 160,000 Hong Kongers have come to the UK since 2021, and many other Chinese nationals have fled China over the past decades. Koo said it's possible for individuals to have their tax information redacted to stop it being shared.
However, most of them are not even aware that they can do this because the instructions for doing so are hidden in a crevice on the UK government website.
She added that the CCP actively tries to find sensitive information on people. It has set up secret police stations across the world, including here in the UK, to spy on those who have fled China. In 2021, a bounty worth over $10,000 was put on a pro-democracy activist from Hong Kong. So the tax data agreement raises serious safety concerns. Koo said it's not unheard of for the UK government to opt out of such pacts with autocratic regimes.
The British government suspended similar tax agreements with Russia and Belarus to protect the Ukrainian citizens that were fleeing to Britain. So there's no reason that the same cannot be done with China and Hong Kong.
She said people from China and Hong Kong deserve to feel safe here in the UK, and added they should have easier access to information to allow their human rights to be protected. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
Next, let's zoom in on Amsterdam, where lawmakers are taking another step towards safeguarding technology. Some of them pushing for a new plan to screen international students before they can access doctoral degree programs at Dutch universities. The country's education minister said on Monday that international students funded by foreign state-run agencies like the Chinese Scholarship Council would be investigated. The move is an expected one. Dutch technology is an attractive target for espionage, and China is known for its attempts to acquire valuable technology for outside its own borders. According to Dutch news agency Trouw, Chinese scholarship recipients must strictly obey the Chinese Communist Party's orders, report to the China embassy regularly while studying overseas, and must return to China after graduating. As a result, some universities rejected Chinese PhD applicants. Worth noting, the Netherlands is home to ASML, one of the world's leading producers of microchip-making gear. Early in March, the Dutch government placed export restrictions on ASML's microchip printing machines, blocking them from being sent to China. That's including its most advanced tool, deep ultralight or DUV machines.